Growing confidence in a tropical storm or even a hurricane developing in the Gulf of Mexico this week. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back at Meteo Mundo. Great to see you on a midday Sunday. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. Coming up in this video, we're going to deep dive into what's happening in the Western Caribbean right now. We're going to talk about some of the very heavy rains that this disturbance is going to bring, and then the evolution of that potentially becoming tropical storm or even Hurricane Helene in the Gulf of Mexico as we go through the week ahead. We'll take a look at other tropical areas of interest for the week, and I've got your island by island rainfall forecast as well. Love to hear from you guys. Appreciate our Meteo Mundo weather community. Drop in the comments section below where you're viewing from, what the weather has been like. You have a specific question about the forecast. Hopefully this video answers a lot of those questions. Let's get into it right now. On this midday Sunday, we now have a 70% chance of tropical development. This red area is officially from the National Hurricane Center. What we're really watching out for right now is trying to get a low-level center of circulation to develop off the coast of Nicaragua as it moves up right along skirting the coast of Honduras, and then over the next 48 to maybe 72 hours potentially seeing a tropical depression or even a tropical storm form here in the far northwest Caribbean, north of Honduras, east of Belize and the Yucatan, and just west of the Cayman Islands. And then just as we go over the week, progressing to the north and eventually to the north and northeast, and we'll get into that potential track in a minute. Now, in the short term, and I mentioned this in the last video, we are going to see some potentially exceptionally heavy rain in portions of our area. On this Sunday, some of the best storm activity is actually well east of the center of circulation. But friends, there is rich tropical moisture spinning around that Central American gyre. And again, it is going to be a wide field of very heavy rain. Some of that is trying to work its way into Haiti as we speak. It could even spiral back into the Dominican Republic. So from time to time, there could be some very heavy rain there. While it's been quiet so far in Jamaica on midday Sunday, later in the afternoon hours, we're going to get a better chance for some showers and storms and some tropical downpours to develop over places like Kingston and Portmore and Spanish Town and Negril, Saint-Lamar, on over towards Montego Bay. The entire island, again, you can just see the rain developing here. Also kicking up the surf and sea conditions as well. A few showers have developed over Cuba, trying to even drift into the southeast, Bahamas and the Turks and the Caicos. But obviously, the bullseye is going to be from Jamaica west. Cayman Islands, again, we've had some passing showers, some heavier rain, and it's just going to continue to be the case here. And again, over Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, seeing some healthy showers and storms develop there. Grand Cayman hasn't had as much so far today, but again, the opportunity is going to be there the next several days. And so maybe if you don't get one of these heavier tropical downpours today, you're still going to be in it the next several days. I'm putting on the water vapor imagery. Blues and greens are a rich water vapor, meaning that there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. And you can see again near that center that's trying to develop a nice cluster there, but look how widespread this is. Now, the very interesting thing is this trough that's digging into the southeastern United States, which will influence the potential track of what could become Helene and is more than likely going to become Helene, has actually brought drier air all the way down to the northern tip of the Yucatan. But this entire moisture axis, this monsoon trough, will lift north, and it's going to bring a lot of moisture back into the Gulf of Mexico coming with this developing system. Let's go over to the visible satellite imagery here. On this Sunday, love to show you this high resolution VisSat. So again, we're looking down here off the coast of Nicaragua. You can see some of those shadows there. We had some higher cloud tops, some thunderstorms developing. You can see the live lightning here, but still, this is a disorganized broad area. You have the heaviest rain and the gusty winds well east of the center. I would love to try and get some rain to backbuild east towards Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, who desperately need it. Unfortunately, again, you guys are just east of where some of this heavier rain is more than likely going to fall. Back over to the infrared satellite imagery. So again, for these areas in the short term, including all of Central America and the Yucatan, it's going to be about the potential for the heavy rain as the low-level center consolidates and works its way up to the north. Now let's talk about how this could evolve. So we're going to be looking and deep diving into how the different models are developing this system. There is more and more confidence now in the fact that we are likely to get a tropical storm and potentially even a hurricane. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities. And then the expected track. We're going to look at a lot of different models. You know, we do that here at Meteo Mundo. First one I'm going to start off with is going to be the GFS, okay? And I am going to take it out about 6 days, and then we're going to look at a few things. Now, the other thing I'm going to add on here, which I don't normally do, is the 500 millibar height contours. Basically, it's the mid levels of the atmosphere. And the reason why I'm adding it onto this is because what is happening in the south central United States with a trough digging down is going to influence the path of what is to become Helene down the road. So we're going to talk about that as well. Let me get that red area back off here, the formation zone. So we're looking at the GFS model, okay? And we're going to take a look at a lot of different things here. First thing I want to do is kind of go back in time and talk about what the GFS is doing for the Northwest Caribbean in the short term. Today is Sunday the 22nd. So again, we have a lot of sloppy, heavy rain for the areas that I've already mentioned, especially Jamaica into the Cayman Islands, and again, the Yucatan and the northern sides of Central America spiraling into Cuba. Now, as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, this is when we start to see the GFS consolidate this and this become a tropical depression or very quickly into a tropical storm. The newest run of the GFS model has this going into the panhandle of Florida as we get into late Thursday. You can clearly see that. You can see all of the isobars there. That is the pressure differences wrapped up with the very low pressure center of circulation. But I want to back this up, because what's happening in the south central, eventually into the southeast United States with this trough is going to have a big impact on the actual movement. So we're going to get this digging trough in the United States, and it's going to come down like this, and it's going to spin around, and it's going to come up like that. All right. Ahead of it, we're going to start seeing southwest surface winds develop, and that should ultimately push what is going to be Helene either due north or slightly to the north or to the east. It does look like the timing of this trough is going to pick up the storm, especially if it's more in the vertical, and push it farther east. That is good news for places like Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. It's not as good a news for potentially portions of Alabama, but especially the west coast of Florida, all the way from the Panhandle down the west coast, because this trough should pick up what's going to be Helene and allow it to track slightly to the east of the center, okay? So again, if I go back in time here, you're going to start to see Helene develop. You're going to start to see this trough dig in. So it digs in like this, comes up. That means it's going to promote southwest surface winds, which should try and nudge Helene a little bit east. Now, depending on the model, depending on how far we go east, okay? The newest run of the GFS, as I mentioned, takes it into the far western panhandle of Florida, okay? The previous model run just 6 hours ago had it over the Big Bend. So we have, in just a 6 hour or one model run difference of the GFS, western side of the panhandle of Florida to the Big Bend. And most of the models are beginning to come in somewhere around there. More than likely, this is kind of called the windshield effect, where it wipes back and forth, especially without a developed low level of center of circulation. But more and more models are focusing on this area. This would be the Cedar Key, Crystal River area, which is my hometown, Crystal River, all the way back to the western side of the panhandle. Now, of course, there are still some variations that could track it farther west and farther east, but especially if it does get picked up by this trough, more than likely there's going to be an easterly turn in the Gulf of Mexico, and a stronger storm, which is more vertically stacked, is going to be more influenced by that trough. A weaker storm could slide underneath it and come basically due north, and we'll take a look at what the European model does in just a second. So that's what the 500 millibar winds look like. Let's go over to the winds at the surface. So I'm going to drop off that layer, and then I'm going to go back over here and bring up our surface winds. So we're going to now look at the intensity of this storm on the GFS model, okay? Now again, big time rainmaker for the Northwest Caribbean over the next few days. But there's going to be some gusty winds, especially developing on the eastern side. And I am really highlighting the Cayman Islands, a little bit closer to Jamaica for that potential development on the east, stronger side of the storm. If this can consolidate down as we get into the Northwest Caribbean, we could have some potentially tropical storm force wind gusts in the Cayman Islands. So as we get into Tuesday, the 24th, and then maybe even into early on Wednesday. So again, these are sustained winds, by the way. So let's go back out here on the 24th, which is Tuesday. And if we show you this, you can see there are sustained winds near Grand Cayman that are pushing tropical storm strength, which means we would more than likely have gusts above tropical storm strength. And we do start to see a consolidation even on the GFS model. You can clearly see where the center would be located right there. So it is absolutely plausible we get a depression or even tropical storm Helene late Tuesday into Wednesday just before it exits the Northwest Caribbean. Then it's forecast to simply become stronger and stronger, and how strong it gets varies by the models. But the GFS is a relatively strong one right now, and you're starting to look at more than likely a hurricane just before landfall. And it is dependent, but we do have some winds sustained over that 74-mile-an-hour threshold. So this could become, on the GFS model, Hurricane Helene. And again, the forecast would try to, again, take this in sometime probably late Thursday or early on Friday. It's going to depend on how far north it goes. If it turns farther east, obviously the west coast of Florida is quicker in time, and that would be a faster landfall. But if it makes its way all the way to the northern coastline, to the panhandle of Florida, then you're looking at a later Thursday time frame on that. Okay, and again, this is the newest run of the GFS deterministic that I'm just showing you. I just showed you the previous run, which is here. Let's look at the European model's newest run, and this is a really slow loop. Now, this is the deterministic, so we're only going to see one plot, but notice it does develop an area of low pressure in the Northwest Caribbean late Tuesday, Wednesday. So again, depression or storm, Northwest Caribbean is possible. Then it drives it into the same area the GFS has. What's the big difference though? It's much weaker on the European model. So there is still a huge spread right now on the two global models, how strong this could be. This would be a weaker tropical storm rather than becoming a hurricane. So we're starting to see the trends as far as the track goes narrow down a bit, but there is still a wide spread as far as it goes to intensity. When we look at the ensemble members, you can see again, now look, there's a few that take it to Louisiana, but most of them are clustered here towards the panhandle or the west coast of Florida. That's the tightest clustering as far as that goes. Notice that there's hardly any now and none, basically Texas and Mexico. So it is also picking up on that trough, taking it either due north or slightly east of north, just depending on the influence. Now, the European model being weaker would not have this engaged as much with that trough and turning farther east. It would be more of that northerly turn, relatively speaking, but weaker. Now, there's another system to talk about in the central Atlantic by mid next week, and that is going to be with a wave coming off the West African coast, and we'll get into that one in a minute as well. So back over here to the models, I'm going to show you the NAM model next, just to give you an idea of what could be happening in the shorter term. So now we're looking at three different models. Go back over to reflectivity here, and then let me loop this up. Again, the NAM model is not going to go as far out in time. And then let me take off, again, the tropical development area. But just to clearly show again that we have a third model developing a low level of circulation as it exits the Northwest Caribbean. So we could have ourselves a depression or storm not far off the Cancun Cozumel coastline as we get into late Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, again, on the western side of this, we're not going to have as much activity. Now, again, please check in if you're a boater with what's happening. Already some high sea warnings are out. We have some small craft advisories. It could be small craft warnings. The governments of these areas are kind of all over the place in the types of advisories and watches and warnings they issue. So please check in, but know that we're going to have some kicked up surf and sea conditions, obviously, in this area. So that could be the main threat for places like Cancun, Cozumel, Tulum. And then we could have the excessive rainfall threat for Jamaica, Jamaica and the Cayman Islands and Cuba, areas off to the east, which are going to be on the dirtier eastern side of the storm. And again, you can see the NAM does throw some rain back into Dominican Republic and Haiti, but it really is cut off from Jamaica, especially west. There could be a significant difference between what the Cayman Islands and Jamaica sees as far as rain, although both areas could have some exceptionally higher rainfall totals. So again, I use this graphic because I want you guys to know what is going on in my head. Because as these systems develop, there are certain things that are more certain, there are certain things that are more questionable, and it can vary by each system, right? So as I look at this one right now, there's a certainty we're going to get continued heavy rain in the Northwest Caribbean the next few days. This could certainly lead to flooding. Flooding is very localized. That is very hard to predict, but you know those areas that are flood prone where you live, you know those low-lying spots, those obviously would come under attack first. There's a high chance now that we're going to get at least a tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico this week, and there are potential that it could become a hurricane as well. So again, if you live along the Gulf Coast and the areas I just mentioned, you're going to want to make sure you're paying very, very close attention to what's happening here as we go through the week ahead. And things to become clearer is the strength in the track, obviously. However, based on everything that I've seen over the last 24 hours, a Florida landfall is the highest probability, okay? It's not a non-zero chance this thing goes either slightly farther west, maybe tries to take a quick turn east, but if it does, it's still going to be impacting Florida. So the bottom line is that a Florida landfall is the highest probability as I see it for today. So for the Western Caribbean, heavy rainfall, and again, flooding is possible in these areas. And I know it's a big area, but that's how this is going to play out, guys. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, all of Central America. I mean, all of Central America. We talked about some of the heavy rain on the western side, the Pacific side of Central America, all of the Yucatan, and now Florida. Now, obviously, it's down the road in Florida, but if this tracks up the west coast, whether it goes into the Panhandle or just inland somewhere, Florida stays on the eastern, wetter side of the storm the entire time. As I mentioned, we could have some significant wave heights developing with this system. Unlike Francine and even Debbie, which were very small storms, if Helene develops, and even if it doesn't become strong, it's going to be a big storm. It's going to be very large in nature. So that means it's going to kick up a large area of double-digit wave heights. We have to watch out for that. And again, developing here, this is today into tomorrow, really start to see those winds and waves pick up over Jamaica and the Cayman Islands and Cuba, then right up the gut there into the Gulf of Mexico. Again, this model based on the GFS would obviously take the most significant waves close to the Panhandle of Florida. European model, this is unfortunately not going to stop at the very end as it should, and I apologize for that, but if you look at the numbers here, we're going to see some very high totals right there. Okay, and I know it stops in the wrong place, but maybe 6, 8 plus inches of rain for the Cayman Islands. Okay, so 150, 200 millimeters could be some very heavy rainfall in Central America as well. I can show you this on the GFS model, which is very similar to the European model. And let me take this out, by the way, just a little bit deeper in time. Let's go out all the way to the end. Well, it's on the 26th already, right? That's probably good, actually. So again, on the GFS, take a look at these rainfall totals, okay? Again, the cutoff is Jamaica, and it's going to be, quite honestly, fascinating to see how much rain Jamaica gets, because the models are all over the place. Even the GFS, look, it tries to paint on very little rain on the northeast side of the island, and then back down towards Treasure Beach and Black River, it brings significant rain along the south coast. I don't think we're going to have that widespread. I think averaging that out is pretty good. I think 3 to 4 inches of rain here locally is likely, which again could lead to some flash flooding. Again, you go farther west, and now you're talking about some potentially significant rain for Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, and Cayman Brac, where we could have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches of rain, just depending on how this evolves. Notice again that the highest rainfall totals are on the eastern side, which brings western Cuba into play for some significant heavier rain there. The GFS tries to really cut it off over the Yucatan. We'll see how that plays out. Notice though, that as you get just north of Roatan, you still have some significant rainfall there. I mentioned the western coastline of Central America. Again, there's a developing system here in the eastern Pacific, which could also bring significant rain to these areas. And then it's all based on the track. Again, there'll be a pretty big shutoff on the western side as far as rainfall totals, but we could have some good significant rain along the track and just off towards the east. So that's the latest with the developing disturbance in the Western Caribbean, which again is likely to become Tropical Storm Helene or even Hurricane Helene as we go through the week. Friends, going to take a quick second just to say thank you for all of your support. A very simple payback for me would be just to hit that like button right now, that thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Make sure you subscribe to Meteo Mundo. It's free if you haven't done that as of yet and you want these latest forecasts across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, your tropical updates, of course, anywhere across the Atlantic Basin. That's what we do here. Thank you for sharing this with your family and friends. Thank you for finding ways to support the channel. Memberships, that's the join button. It's just 99 cents a month. The super thanks are open, and you can find other ways, the PayPal, the Venmo, in the description below. Now we're going to get into, just got to reset this 1 second. Now we're going to get into the rest of the forecast. And now we're going to go island by island with what's going to be happening here over the next 3 days. And I've got your island by island rainfall totals. I do want to mention this next tropical disturbance that I'm going to be monitoring here. This one will be something I'm going to keep a close eye on. Now look, the actual disturbance itself is still far off towards the east, but there is an opportunity that over the next 7 days that this does develop. Notice that there is a bit of a northerly track here trying to bend it north and get it high enough in latitude to not influence the Lesser Antilles or the US or the British Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico. I'll show you the GFS model here real fast. You saw the European model plots at least out into the central side of the Atlantic. They don't have a big turn north, but what we're hoping for, and what I'm hoping for overall, is that as we get into the central Atlantic here, we start to see this thing just try and bow farther north. This is it. Here it comes here. So through the week ahead. And so we'll stop here at the end of the week. And we're going to just try and keep turning this farther north. But obviously for the Lesser Antilles, I'm going to keep a very close eye on it for you guys. Let's look at the shorter term forecast here, right on through our Wednesday. So give me just 1 second to load that up. So we'll start off east because obviously we've been talking a lot about what's happening out to the west. Just like it has been, we're going to see some localized showers and storms across the Lesser Antilles for the remainder of the midweek hours here from this Sunday right on through Tuesday, Wednesday. So for Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Martin, St. Eustatius, on over towards Montserrat, Guadeloupe. There have been some localized heavy rain, but it has been very localized, and that should continue to be the trend over the next few days. I've got a 30 to 40% chance in these areas, but again, there's nothing big coming to promote larger scale rain, more widespread rain. Still could see some pockets of heavier rain. Again, we had that in Barbados at the end of the week. Portions of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Trinidad has had that, to go along with, by the way, heat advisories as well. You know how it has been in this area lately. If you haven't gotten the rain, it's been exceptionally hot. So many of you in the comment section have just let me know how hot it's felt. And again, the majority of you will feel the heat more than the rain here across the Lesser Antilles, Nueva Esparta, even the ABC Islands. Again, I'm hopeful that we'll get a little bit in the way of some passing showers on the far eastern side of our developing system in the Western Caribbean, but a lot of that is going to start spinning back west into the system as it moves north and west. So I'm not overly optimistic, but there's that chance. For Puerto Rico, the US and the British Virgin Islands, rain chances will be there mainly in the afternoon hours. Again, it's not exceptionally high though for San Juan and St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, on over towards Anegada, Virgin Gorda, places like that. Passing showers, look for heat advisories to be issued on which each and every afternoon. Otherwise, the weather is relatively pleasant. Get outside and enjoy it. For our friends in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, most influenced by this tropical disturbance out west the rest of today and tomorrow. So we're going to have the best rain chances with some of these tropical downpours for Haiti and Dominican Republic through Monday. Rain chances should tail off a little bit into Tuesday and midweek as this system pulls off towards the west. Okay, not expecting a ton right now of direct influences for the Southeast Bahamas and the Turks and the Caicos. Yes, we could get a few passing showers coming in. The GFS is a little bit more expansive on the northeast side overall. Okay, but as far as just really being set in with some heavier rain, no. Still could be some localized showers and storms. We've had that across the Bahamas lately where some of these storms really get going. They're producing heavy rains. They're producing some gusty winds. We still have the king tides in effect as well, so keep an eye out for that. Now, Again, depending on the track of the system, a farther east track could start to throw some rain into the central and especially the northwest Bahamas by, let's say, Wednesday, maybe into Thursday. It really just depends. Could be even late Tuesday night. So you can see on the GFS model, obviously the wet side of the storm tries to sneak into Nassau, New Providence, and Andros, and Bimini, and Grand Bahama, and Walker's Key, and Eleuthera, and the Abaco Islands as well. So that's something I'll be monitoring. I don't think it's going to be persistent enough to cause any flood issues at this point in time, but we could just start getting wetter here across these areas. And as I've mentioned already, rain chances for the Northwest Caribbean, Central America, Yucatan, exceptionally high, with the opportunity for some flooding in these spots the next few days. So here we go. Again, for the Northwest Bahamas, 30% chance today. Monday, Tuesday, there's not a lot of rain. We're not going to be influenced by that disturbance as of yet. As it develops and moves north, we will be down the road starting on Wednesday if it all plays out. Same thing for the central and the southeast side of the Bahamas. Only isolated showers for the Turks and Caicos. Cuba's rain chances very high. Cayman Islands rain chances are even higher, might even go 100% Monday, Tuesday. Again, wet weather for the Cayman Islands. Belize City is going to be wet, but that includes all of Belize. That includes Dangriga and San Ignacio and Belmopan, places like that. Cancun and Cozumel, Tulum, Merida, all of the Yucatan will get wetter. Now, that being said, the farther west that you live in the Yucatan, the heavier rain potential is lower, but right along the coast, we could have some kind of lashing rains and squalls to go along with kicked up sea conditions as well. Jamaica's rain chances are high. Again, that cutoff line is right there over Jamaica. I think the rain chances are high, and I think the bigger question is how much rain Jamaica sees. But I hope you guys get enough to cool things off, help you guys out a bit. It's been dry. Dominican Republic, 50, 60, as I mentioned, highest rain chances the next couple days, falling to a 40 on Tuesday. Puerto Rico, U.S. and British Virgin Islands, while not directly influenced by the disturbance, will still have decent rain chances over the next several days. Bermuda has some passing showers today, basically dry Monday, Tuesday. Anguilla, 40% chance the next couple days, 30 on Tuesday. Same thing for St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin, St. Bart's, places like that. As a matter of fact, again, as I've already mentioned, all the Lesser Antilles will have isolated scattered showers and storms the next 3 days, okay? Nothing is going to be extremely prominent in these areas, but we're not going to be completely dry either. So Montserrat, Guadeloupe, 40% chance the next few days. Antigua, Barbuda, 40 today, 30 on Monday and Tuesday. And that's the same scenario for our friends in Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Barbados, it's basically isolated, but there's still going to be some heavier downpours. Grenada, 40 today, 30 Monday, Tuesday. Trinidad and Tobago, again, it's hot. Daytime highs have been hitting around 34 degrees Celsius in some spots. Hopefully, we get some rain to cool things off. Not exceptionally high, but a decent chance for Suriname and Guyana. Nueva Esparta, isolated showers. And again, cross your fingers, our friends in the ABC Islands catch a few showers with this disturbance Sunday, Monday, today, Monday, and if not, we start to dry out again. Friends, you know I appreciate you guys. You can find us all across all social media. We're on Instagram. We do some exclusive content on TikTok, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, you got a question, mymediamundo@gmail.com. Obviously, you can drop those in the comment section below as well. So again, to recap, we have the disturbance. It's not an invest as of yet, but at any point in time it could. Notice that area is red. It's now a 70% chance of development. The models are beginning to hone in on a potential depression or storm in the Northwest Caribbean over the next 3 days. May not form into the southern Gulf of Mexico, but then after that, it is likely to become a tropical storm or potentially even a hurricane. It would be named Helene. And then a track north or slightly east of north is forecast through the week in the Gulf of Mexico. Friends, you know I got you covered. I'll have all the latest details for you tomorrow. Until then, you have a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing here to Meteo Mundo, and I'll see you soon. Check, check, check.